It's a new house in your first day, but you wake up your favorite way. 'Cause with Folgers to brew, the aroma's calling you. The best part of waking up is listening to the newest episode of Cosmere Chronicles, the podcast where we follow two readers who are reading for the first time, Sheta and Justin, and we chronicle their journey through Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere series. On today's episode, we'll be chronicling Mistborn, The Final Empire, chapters 19 through 21. And now, let's throw it over to the host of Cosmere Chronicles. This is Joe! And thank you, Joe. Once again, I am back. My name's still Joe. I'm still the host of Cosmere Chronicles. And we are joined by Justin and Sheta. How are the two of you doing?
Great.
Super fine.
All right, that's good. Now, I don't know what. All right, anyways, we're doing Cosmere Chronicles. We're going to be chronicling the Cosmere and shit. And, let's once again go into unrelated questions that I'll ask you so people can judge you.
Why judge? Why not get to know?
That's not fun. There's a train going by. But this week, we've gone through comic books with Marvel and DC, so we'll leave that and we'll go into Star Trek. So the first question will be, who is your favorite captain in Star Trek?
My favorite captain is James Tiberius Kirk. He's the first and he is the coolest because he beams down and he kicks ass with everybody else.
Kind of reckless, but...
Oh, very much so. I didn't say he's the captain I'd want to serve under. He is my favorite.
That's for mine. My favorite captain is...
He is my favorite to watch.
Well, he's entertaining. Captain Jean-Luc Picard is my favorite. Because he is a captain I would love to serve under. He's very compassionate and wise. And responsible.
And the most British Frenchman you'll ever see.
Yeah. I just realized that when I was like, wait a minute. Jean-Luc is not British. Or like, why does he not sound French? Like, I was like, but it's the future. Things are different.
Yep, and my favorite one will be probably different than a lot of people's. I like Cisco. I just always really liked his character and everything, and his like leadership and stuff. I don't want to say too much because I know Sheta hasn't watched those episodes, but I always like Cisco.
I noticed that you just called him Cisco, not like James Tiberius Kirk. So is his name just Cisco, like one name, like Prince and Beyonce? Like,
God knows, Sheta.
It's like, yeah, Captain Cisco.
No, it's
because
Benjamin.
It's a cool name. Okay.
It's Benjamin Cisco.
Okay.
And I do want to specify my Kirk choice is only to the original series and original continuity, and then the following movie. Not any of that stupid Kid Kirk stuff.
What about Mirror Universe Kirk?
As long as it's William Shatner, it counts.
So you don't like Chris Pine?
I like Chris Pine, the actor. I like him in that movie, but that character is not my favorite captain.
All right. And then we'll just next go to your overall favorite Star Trek character.
Jesus Christ.
You gonna go first, Justin, since you took going first, captains?
No, you can go first.
I like Data. That's probably my favorite Star Trek character.
What's his rank?
Commander. Lieutenant.
Close shit.
Commander.
So, there you
Lieutenant Commander. I like him because there's so many things, so many ideas and stories that you can bounce off of him being the first android in Starfleet. There's just so many good episodes where we learn a lot about Starfleet and humanity and just the ideals of Starfleet and about just being a living thing and stuff like that.
Justin?
I think after thinking about it, I think I have to go with Dr. McCoy. It's a tough choice, but he's probably the character I most enjoy watching what he has to say about things and how he reacts to things. Because while Spock's always emotional, or always logical, McCoy's always the one to come be emotional. And I like I like the dynamic he brings to the three main characters in the original show.
And then mine will be another Deep Space Nine character with going with Dr. Bashir. Whenever I watched, I was just always very interested in what Bashir was doing and his character, and especially as the seasons go, it dives more into him and his backstory, and I enjoyed it all quite a bit. All right. Well, now we'll just continue with Star Trek talk and just turn this into a Star Trek podcast.
I don't want to bitch about things for the next 2 hours, so no.
Well, I can. We'll just start reading and going through the Star Trek books.
Also, it's Star Trek, not Star Wars. Well, at least it's that.
Because it's so much better in the modern days, Sheta.
Sheta, you have not watched Discovery, so you don't know how much there is to
I
bitch
will
about
never
Star Trek.
watch Discovery. So that's on you guys for watching it.
No, it's on me for forcing Justin to watch the first episode to see how much he hated it. I sat through 2 seasons of that.
I personally don't like having my Starfleet commit war crimes and then have that be a noble thing to do.
Or Discovery, literally the very first thing that happens in the show is they break the Prime Directive and treat it as if that was the right thing and a good thing to do. That's quite literally how that show starts, is breaking the Prime Directive.
As if Kirk never broke the Prime Directive. Well, every good captain has at one point.
Yeah, but they don't do it like as a moral good so flippantly. It's the plot of an episode usually, or they hadn't established it firmly in continuity yet.
Or like with Archer, there was no Prime Directive. His stuff sort of set the precedent for what they should do. And Janeway, usually, I think she was probably the one that broke the Prime Directive the least. But anyways, all right, we're done with that. We'll go back to Cosmere. So this week we read 3 more chapters of Mistborn, The Final Empire. And we will also have Sheta go through and recap last week's podcast episode.
Last week we were doing chapters 16 through 18.
Yes.
Yes, in which Vin heals from the attack at the Lord Ruler's castle that her and Kelsier went to. So she is healed. We find out a bit about her savior, Sazed, how he is kind of a robot, kind of an automaton. Then
he is not a robot.
I said kinda. We don't know that for sure yet, so we will see in the next couple of chapters if that's true. Anyways, Vin learns a little bit about why Kelsier is fighting this fight. We learned a bit about his wife, Mare, and how she wants to bring flowers back to the world, and how Kelsier has taken on that dream. And now Vin is in on the dream too. Then, let's see, Vin continues to go to balls. She tries to, but it fails to want to see Ellen Venture at the ball. But he sits at her table and they have a whole thing. They flirt a little bit. Vin dances. Vin gets kind of threatened by the mean girls of the nobles. And then she witnesses a kid get killed, a skaa kid get killed. And she gets reminded of her place and why they're doing this. I think that's it.
Yeah, it seems pretty good.
16, 17, right. 18. Yeah, 3 chapters.
Justin, anything you want to add?
No. Sheta did a perfect and excellent job.
All right, cool. Point of inspiration.
I think she should sum it up every time because she did such a great job.
You're just making it sound like you're going to sum it up every week.
I don't know about that.
We have to put you through torture. Just be glad we don't do our shows live, so that way you have to sit there and watch people post and complain about you while it happens.
Ooh, that sucks. I don't want to do that.
Well, I don't want to do a live show either, because that means we have to be on camera.
I'd search up their entire internet history and find one little thing and take it out of context to make them look bad.
And you do that all live.
Do it live, like a pro.
Yeah, you don't have the power to do that. All right, so we're moving on. So this week's chapters. Once again, my obligatory question: how do you guys enjoy this week's chapters?
I found them quite informative.
Yes, we did learn quite a bit about history stuff, and something interesting is we keep learning about more details about events we know about already. So I like that. I feel like we're getting some breadcrumbs every couple chapters.
All right. So then we'll just go into this week's chapters. Starting this week, we start with chapter 19. For those of you keeping track at home, that's the chapter after 8. All right, so starting with the epigraph. Quan and I met by happenstance, though, I suppose, he would use the word providence. I have met many other terrorist philosophers since that day. They are, every one, men of great wisdom and ponderous sagaciousness, men with an almost palpable importance. Not so Quan. In a way, he is as unlikely a prophet as I am a hero. He never had an air of ceremonious wisdom, nor was he even a religious scholar. When we first met, he was studying one of his ridiculous interests in the great Kaleni library. I believe he was trying to undermine whether or not trees could think. That he should be the one who finally discovered the great hero of terrorist prophecy is a matter that would cause me to laugh, had events turned out just a little differently. Any thoughts on that epigraph?
Curious to see what he's got his deal with terrorism in, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. I was like, man, Quan is pretty chill. Like, sounds like he's like kind of a cool, chill guy, not like as uptight as I imagined. Or the only other terrorist man we know is Sazed, and he's kind of more uptight and stuff. So interesting.
Well, we do know Quan from an earlier epigraph. Was it where chapter 15. I don't know why Quan betrayed me was the first sentence. So maybe he's not as chill.
Or maybe the Lord Ruler's just that anti-chill.
Yeah. When you're uptight and you were like, why did you betray me, dude? And you're just like, I didn't. You're crazy. That's how it is. That's how it's going to be.
Very likely. Or, again, he learns a secret.
Also, like,
about he had to kill them all for the good of the world.
I think saying that your friend betrayed you is very dramatic, so he sounds a little like a drama queen already.
All right, so now we'll start the chapter proper. So we're with Kelsier, and it's the same night as the ball we went through in the last chapter. It starts off, Kelsier observes that there are 5 tin eyes keeping watch over Keep Tekiel. This lets Kelsier know that the great houses are growing nervous and raising their defenses. Kelsier then sneaks the body of Lord Charles Entrone onto Keep Tekiel's courtyard. Entrone is a political ally of House Tekiel, and Kelsier knows that the body being found will lead to the houses blaming their enemies for it, or that someone killed him, hoping to take his place.
Man, it is so funny to see him doing these shady little, like, cartoon behind the scenes each other things. Like, just every time we don't see him on screen, he's out sowing discord among these people. Is quite funny to me to imagine.
Right, and after that, Kelsier leaves and heads to the Soot Warrens, which is like slums, where he disguises himself as a noble and meets an informant named Hoyd. Kelsier asks about House Renew, and Hoyd mentions that he is making no allies or enemies, but is procuring weapons. He also mentions that Lord Renew was considering a union between his niece, Valette, and Lord Ellen Venture. Lord Renew was able to demand that Ellen be assigned to watch over Valette at balls, and that Renew has some sort of leverage over House Venture. And this all catches Kelsier's opinions, catches Kelsier's, thoughts, wondering what the hell happened for Vin to be connected to Ellen in this sort of way.
I love seeing how fast that information does spread.
Yeah, that was interesting. Stuff that just happened. He's like, oh, I just got this news. Like, literally, we just watched it happen, like, not even an hour ago.
And Vin probably thinks, nobody overheard this, nobody's talking about this, not realizing just how fast this stuff spreads among the elites.
Yeah, and how many people are actually watching and paying attention to, like,
yeah, she
what
thinks
she's
they're
doing,
all just flippantly not caring, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then next, Hoyd says that Shan Ilariel is a soother, and Kelsier decides to murk up the waters for the other houses, so he just flippantly mentions that Shan Ilariel has a covert relationship with Solomon Tekiel. And he also ponders out loud that she was the one who secured Ilariel the deal with House Hastings last week. And then Hoyd acts as if he knew all of this already.
Yeah, that was my favorite part. When Hoyd's so excited that he'd just given him some information for free, too.
Yeah, to pass on to other people.
Yeah. Yeah, but he plays it off like it's not valuable information at all.
Yeah, he's thinking, like, maybe that's what happened. For this,
Yeah. And he's just thinking aloud, and so Hoyd's like, oh, he's so stupid, he's just giving me this,
Yeah. I'm gonna make money off of this tidbit. Like,
Yeah, probably tonight, you know?
yeah, yeah. It's funny. That's how rumors start and gossip. Like, I
Mm,
think that's so funny. He's having so much fun. He's like, "Oh, time to spread some more chaos," and he's just like
yeah, yeah.
dropping names, dropping I don't know, scandalous news.
Hmm.
Also, Hoyd, isn't that from a name from Elantris?
Oh,
Well,
yeah. Duh. Forgot.
I
well,
was
there
like,
was
Hoyd?
there was the name of that guy who was sneaking weapons in for Sereni that was named Hoyd.
I thought that name
Wow.
sounded familiar. I just thought it was familiar from a different series.
Yeah, no. I was like, Hoyd. He's also like they talked about him being kind of having a reputation or something. So people know him. Like he gets around. So I wonder if this is gonna be one of those like characters that shows up in every series thing. Like a small character.
I liked
Uh,
quite a bit in when he describes, like, oh, my eyesight isn't so good, you know? And then he comes away and sees him completely just grab the stuff that was dropped very easily for that. Like, just seeing
yeah,
this
this was
guy's bullshit as he's saying it was quite funny. But then to play it up like you're an idiot who falls for all that stuff sounds like too much fun for a guy like Kelsier to do.
mm-hmm.
Yep, so then after this, Kelsier leaves, and then he dirties himself up in order to portray himself as a skaa informant. And then he meets with Lord Straff Venture, who is also known to be a Tin Eye. And, Straff's a little
Remind me
upset.
again what Tenais do?
That heightens all their senses.
Okay.
So then he tells Straff that House Irikel is cheating him and have been selling their swords and canes to House Tekio for half the price. And, Kelsier knows that this is a half-truth. So that way, if Straff looks into it, he will still believe it. Because while, Irikel is selling it for House Tekio for a lower price, it's not as extreme as what Kelsier is making it. But then Straff acts as if he doesn't care about any of that and instead asks about the survivor of Hathsin. Straff has heard rumors about the survivor. Straff has heard rumors that the survivor has returned to Luthadel and is forming a skaa rebellion. He has also heard rumors of a 11th medal. And Kelsier just plays this off as simply rumors and that nobody believes the survivor is dead. Venture says that someone clever is manipulating the skaa. If the survivor did die of the pits, and if someone got a hold of his corpse, his bones, there are ways to imitate a man's appearance.
That was crazy. This brings a lot of other things into question that I thought was very interesting.
Yeah, I do wonder. It's the getting a hold of his bones specifically.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We know the Lord
That was
Ruler
very
was
weird.
burned to his bones and then like grew them back or grew his body back, And then also for me, I was thinking like Lord Renew could have had that done to him too.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one, Sheta.
Then later on, Kelsier arrives back at Mansion Renew. Vin and Caesar are already back, and Vin is upset because all the information that she got at the party was already information that Caesar himself had collected. Kelsier says that it was still a good night because Vin is making contacts, and she can continue making contacts, and that will lead to them actually getting the information that they want. And then, while he was talking, Kelsier was also talking to Lord Renew about how good he is at, acting the part and getting into it. And then the line that he responds with is, "It is who I am," the Kandra said simply.
Yes, that's when my theory went out the window because they called him the Conjurer.
The
Like he
Kandra.
Conjurer.
Kandra.
Okay, I did
Kandra.
so.
Kandra.
Interesting. So that's something. We don't know what it is yet, but
I
I
think
now
he's going
no
to be
longer
like the
think.
keeper, where he's got some other
Yeah.
ability. Like if you can
Mhm.
absorb another human's mind completely or something, to the point where
Ooh.
and their luck, to the point where you do kind of become them,
Yeah.
That's my theory right now.
Yeah, now I no
And
longer
like,
think he's being brainwashed or is a zombie being paraded around.
yeah. Well, he could still be a zombie, but I don't think he's brainwashed because I don't think Kelsier would have said that. But he might have said it as a zombie to mock him, Though I doubt it.
All right. The next, Caesar tells Kelsier that Vin was attended by Ellen most of the night, and that she did make a way to make his attention seem less threatening. Kelsier lets them know that he already knows about them saying that Renew and Venture are friends. This surprises Vin, and Kelsier tells her that things can get out of hand quickly in the court. And then Seiza tells Kelsier that Ellen was meeting with young lords from House Lical and Hastings. And Kelsier finds that this is an odd combination, but chalks it up to Ellen just trying to annoy his father. He does tell Seiza to investigate it further, though. And then after Kelsier leaves, Vin asks him to meet him in her room. And once they're in there...
Sorry.
I
was just thinking, ooh, this is it. It's gonna happen.
This is it? Here?
Yeah, because Kelsier goes, my room. And I was like, oh my gosh. Just for a second. I know it's not gonna happen. That's just where my mind
If it
went.
was, it wouldn't be here, that's for sure.
Why not? In the manor, you know?
It's the timing.
What? Well, Vin is still in her pretty dress, too, so I thought that would make a good scene in a movie, you know?
Maybe in a porn movie.
Yeah, well... Sorry, continue.
She just spent all that time last chapter flirting with Ellen.
Yeah, so she's all worked up. She wants to be proven that she is a beautiful girl and stuff.
All right,
okay, I'll stop.
All right, so once they're in the room, she tells Kelsier about the books that Ellen was looking at. And Kelsier notes from the way she called him Ellen that she might be falling for him. Vin describes the book, and Kelsier calls it The Book of the False Dawn. Its author went on to write books that were even more damning and was killed with a hook through the mouth, similar to how the people who abuse allomancy are killed. Vin mentions that Shan Ilario was searching for the book, and Kelsier suspects she was looking for something to blackmail Ellen with. He says that the book is moderately dangerous. The Lord Ruler sometimes ignores things like this because banning books will draw more attention to it. By not forbidding the book, the ministry had doomed it to obscurity. The Lord Ruler is far more lenient with the nobles than with the skaa.
I thought this part was so funny because I was like, it reminded me of when Umbridge in Harry Potter bans the Quibbler, and Hermione is just glad because it's like, oh, she just guaranteed everyone at Hogwarts is going to read this now.
I always think that's a funny thing in human nature when you try to control that and people just dive towards it immediately, even if they were not interested before. It's interesting to learn because I assume the Lord Ruler just ruled with a generic iron fist. It's interesting to learn that he's cunning enough to know that no one was going to read this fucking thing. No one was interested. Most people do not want to give into that stuff. Yeah.
And he said it was a stuffy book. Like, it wasn't interesting, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And who wants to sit there and read about the person who's in charge of them being infallible, being not as good as you'd hope anyways? You don't want to think that way, you know?
Mm.
So that actually taught us a lot about his character.
I was surprised at the subtlety that the ministry has.
That makes them much scarier.
Yeah.
Kelsier notes that Ellen may have other books that are explicitly forbidden. He wonders if they can find a way to make certain that the obligators find out about those books and then hand him over to the Inquisitors for execution, since that would lead to more political turmoil by having the heir of a major house killed. Vin pales at this.
With which the flippantness he says that was quite interesting to me. Because I was like, that is exactly what he would think immediately. But that's just such a horrifying way to think about somebody you've just been talking to.
Yeah, Vin pales at this, and Kelsier now knows for certain that she is definitely falling for Ellen. And he realizes that putting a young girl in that sort of situation, she likely was going to wind up falling for somebody. And Vin is upset and tells Kelsier that she didn't say this so that way Ellen could get killed. Maybe he could be an ally or something.
This was the cutest thing.
Kelsier in his mind
when Vin was like,
when she was hopeful that they could recruit him, like you were saying before.
Maybe he could be an ally or something. It's just so childish.
After one conversation with the guy, right?
Yeah, after seeing one book, she's like, maybe, he could help us. Like, it's just very naive despite her years on the streets.
Yeah, that's interesting. She's been taught not to trust anyone, and yet she's too trusting.
It's simply because she has a thing for him.
I guess she has no experience with
she has a bit of a thing for him because she thinks he might be a good guy, because he doesn't act like the other nobles she's ever met.
And then Kelsier in his mind hopes, he's wondering and hoping that she isn't too hurt when Ellen winds up discarding her. And then Kelsier tells Vin that, Ellen, simply because he's reading the book, it doesn't make him their ally. He's just doing it for fun with his friends, but they'll never actually try to overthrow the final empire. Kelsier tells Vin that Ellen is not their ally, and when she spends time with him, then she is putting the operation and the crew in jeopardy. And after he tells her that, Kelsier also, he suspects that staying away from him is the last thing that she intends to do. And that's the end of the chapter. Anything else you two want to go over from this chapter?
I thought it was funny when Kelsier is talking with Hoyd, and then he takes some of the almost exact way that Hoyd talked and things he said and brought it to the other noble he was talking to. Like one of them, he pointed out explicitly that he just tried to say something the way he said it, but I noticed the other ways he was talking was similar. So I imagine he's modeling how he talks to these nobles after how he talks, or how these people talk to them, so he can sound very convincing. And also a bit as a joke to himself, I think, too.
Mm-hmm. I liked hearing the details of how he both tried to be a skaa and then a noble.
In case you didn't pick up on it, Straff Venture, that is Ellen's father.
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I forgot. I wanted to say that I thought he was very cool. Like, he's the most powerful nobleman. And so I liked that he, one, didn't care about the gossip, like, between the houses that Kelsier was trying to sell. He already knew, like, a lot of the details of actual things. Like, I can't believe he knows about some kind of rebellion and he knows about Kelsier. Like, just shows how he actually is more powerful. Gets the best info. I was kind of scared.
Oh, yeah. I think it's so funny to be doing this too, or didn't really explicitly say, or point out yet, but getting information, not really caring about it, just wanting to figure out what everyone else has access to for information about the house they're faking under, and then being on the other side just to get information from them about what they're searching for and what they want to know and about. I just think it's so funny to play both sides like that and have everyone else be so trusting enough that that you are who you say you are.
That's true. I didn't think of that. He was just scoping out both sides, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, he said, he asked about house. I forget what's their noble's name.
Renew.
Ours. Yeah.
Renew.
Asking about that. He didn't really care about the other stuff that much, but he listened to it anyways because so he wouldn't seem suspicious. And then he pays the guy for not that much information, really. He's basically paying him to sow misinformation among the nobles. And I think it's funny, the other guy does not pay him for similar information because he's an asshole, All
right, so now we'll go on to chapter 20, starting with the epigraph. It isn't a shadow, this dark thing that follows me, the thing that only I can see. It isn't really a shadow. It's blackish and translucent, but doesn't have a shadow-like solid outline. It's insubstantial, wispy and formless, like it's made out of a dark fog. Or mist, perhaps.
Ooh, I got chills for reading that part.
Yeah, that was the scariest one.
It's like, what's going on here?
Yeah. What the hell happened?
I was like, oh, I want to know this mystery so bad. It's like, or is it going to be like the smoke monster reveal? Like, kind of answered, but not really.
Something you could never see coming in a million years.
Yeah, like in Lost is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
This sort of thing's another one that, following up an earlier epigraph, was this chapter 14, where he says they sometimes see shadows following him.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The following
that was creepy.
Strange.
It's like a monster.
Either it's some kind of supernatural monster, or he's just legit going insane. It's one of the two.
But there's real mist right now.
Yeah, but he could be so egotistical right now in his savior complex, that he's attributing things that are happening to his own destiny and stuff. Whether it's him crazy or it's just bluntly what's happening, either one is horrifying too.
I do now think maybe if he was just seeing that, he might have manifested it with his personal powers that he has. Kind of like the puff marshmallow guy. If you think it, you make it happen.
Well, you spoiled it, Sheta. That's how it's ending.
All right.
He
So
just answered the "Are you a god?" question correctly. That's all that happened here.
So after chapter 20 begins with Vin, she's riding a carriage back to Mansion Renew. It's been a couple weeks and she has been going to many noble outings, both at night and during the day. She hasn't been able to get the information that she wants, though. The other nobles just don't share much information with her, but Kelsier says that will eventually change. And she's also annoyed at Ellen Venture because he hasn't been at many of the events, and the ones that he has been at, he has not been making much of an effort to spend time with her. And even though Ellen hasn't been spending time with her, Shan Ilariel still bothers her and takes every occasion to deride, insult, and demean her. And while she's in the carriage, Vin watches some skaa children, having to clean stuff out from all the ash and everything. And she thinks about how Ellen and the other nobles must not understand how bad life is for the skaa. She didn't hate the nobility like Kelsier does, but when she thinks about the young boy's execution and these skaa that are working, how can the nobility not see this and understand? And then when Vin arrives at Mansion Renew,
That is a question, because it's so apparent what's happening to these people, Like, if you just look outside and they're all working so hard so your stupid carriage can stay clean and stuff. Like, they're... Like, the ones who don't beat and kill them, they're obviously suffering. So really, she's saying, how can they not know? But I'm like, they must really, really see them as not people, like more than I realize when reading this. Because I don't think they're all that hard, but they really must be like how we think of animals for real, in a way that that even in real life slave terms is like more extreme than even in our real world examples.
It's interesting because this part I actually thought about. Well, we just went to Disney World recently, and I was like, man, there's so many people working here to like tidy up the park, to like run all the rides, and just stand here to help anyone who needs help. And I was like, I really commended the workers and saw them, but a lot of people just like thought they were part of the environment and stuff, And I just wondered about that too. Like, if you want to have something nice, you need people to be working there too. And like, I think it would be really easy to just think that, of course, that's the way it is and stuff without thinking about how it becomes that way.
Yeah, it just makes sense, right?
Yeah, that's always the way it was. Like, oh, the streets are always clean because that's
Yeah.
just how it was. You don't think about who had to clean them and stuff like that until you are without it, until you come to the real world and there's garbage everywhere. So, I don't know. I think it's a mixture of like like ignorance, and I'm sure some of them are just evil too.
And sheer
The nobles
stupidity
are.
too.
Yeah, like some people purposely want to stay ignorant and stupid, not notice that kind of stuff.
Or
And there's
never have a
plenty to
thought till
like.
it's said to them, right?
Oh yeah, Vinway's even saying that. Like she kind of like forgot about the Ska rebellion and all the Ska sufferings when she was in the ball. Like she forgot
Yeah.
about it until the little boy got killed. Because when you're up in that world, you're all wrapped up in the drama and the gossip. Like she just got bullied by that mean girl. She's like, "Oh, my feelings were hurt," Like your level of things to occupy your mind is just at that level. You don't want to think about stuff. And I was like, we really do that in real life too. So like we're not thinking about third world countries right now. We're doing a podcast here, like it's just your level of
I think the difference is they're
comfort.
not being killed out in our streets, right?
Yeah. So I think those are the kind of things someone like Brandon Sanderson, who has traveled to places like that, really has an understanding of the difference.
Then, when Vin arrives at Mansion Renew, she sees Kelsier Renew outside as a large group of skaa workers are loading a series of carts. Vin talks to Kelsier and he says that they are shipping out the weapons and supplies, so that way it doesn't arouse suspicion that Renew is gathering them without doing anything. They will go on a canal boat, which will stop on the journey to the west, in order to give most of it, along with most of the workers, to the rebellion. And the soldiers they have here that will be going out there, they don't know that Renew is part of the plan, but they instead believe that Kelsier is scamming him. And then Kelsier also mentions that he will be leaving on the boat as well. He and Yeden are going to travel and meet with the rebel army. Kelsier will inspect them, and Yeden will take over watching them, so that way Ham can return to Luthadel. Marsh will also arrive here soon, and he's going to leave with them, so that way he can be dropped off at an insertion point and go into the ministry as a new, obligator recruit. Kelsier wants Vin to meet with Marsh before they leave, so that way she can learn about being a seeker from him. And as Vin is waiting for Marsh, she thinks about how she has changed. She's coming to enjoy being a noblewoman, and now her problems have changed from starvation and beatings to extended carriage rides and companions arriving late. She wonders if she should leave with Kelsier to see the army, but thinks that she can't leave. If she missed the hasting ball, then it would take weeks to repair the damage. Also, if she disappeared again, then Ellen would probably forget all about her. And Vin notices that the skaa workers are watching Kelsier. They're speaking about him in reverent tones. She wonders if Kelsier will be able to give up leadership to the rebellion in Yeden when this is done like he said he would. He's a good man, but if he did try to take control, then it would reek of betrayal. And then Marsh arrives and has Vin meet him on the roof to show her how to use bronze. And when he gets up there, he tells her that copper and bronze aren't as flashy as the others, but they are very useful. Vin asks what's the point of bronze if others can be immune to it with copper. Marsh says that's a mistake that many Mistborn make. Not everyone is a Mistborn, and even Mistines can kill people. If you know which power your opponent is using, then that could save your life. Also, if you see someone using allomancy when there is no smoker nearby and cannot sense it, then they are either Mistborn or an Inquisitor. And you can also use bronze in order to sense which emotions a soother or rioter is trying to affect. And you can also use it to tell when someone is flaring their metals. And so Marsh as Vin burns bronze and sense the allomancy beam. She can sense both Kelsier and Marsh. Marsh asks if they feel different, and after some concentration, Vin says that one felt like it was pushing at her, and the other felt like it was pulling. Marsh then asks her if she can sense different pulses in them, but Vin cannot. And Marsh says that's a good thing because it took him 6 months of practice, and he had felt incompetent if she was able to do it on her first try.
So, what exactly does bronze do before that? Just sense the powers?
You can sense when somebody's using allomancy.
Okay.
So, pretty much, if you're there and you use it, then across the room, you can sense somebody being a tin eye somewhere or somebody trying to sue somebody. So you would be able to know who's using it.
Let's see.
Which is why you'd have, people who can use copper, or they're called smokers, because copper then would block it. So then if someone tried to use bronze to sense, they wouldn't be able to sense it.
Okay.
And so Marsh explains that she will be able to sense differences in the pulses for whether it is a pushing or pulling metal, a physical or mental metal, and an eternal or external metal. Pretty much this part, we just get a whole big technical stuff about how there are physical and mental metals, and then ones that are eternal or external, and then there's pushing and pulling, and they all are connected.
Again, I am reminded I'm reminded of a video game tutorial here. And I kind of wish I had the visuals of when you pull, it's red, or when it's blue. When you push, it's red. Then it'll help me really visualize how it works, because I cannot keep it all together about what does what.
I like seeing how Marsh talks about this stuff compared to how Kelsier and people do, because he seems very, straightforward and pragmatic about it.
He's very technical,
A lot of, technical. The way a lot of other people seem to talk about it is a lot, isn't quite as straight as what he's saying.
It seems like he made it a thing to learn it.
Yeah.
Book learn it,
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, it's also the thing too where Kelsier he more just cares about the physical stuff that can help him in fights, which is not what bronze does. So that's why these other ones, Kelsier is more flippant about them. You don't need to learn much about, doing this, doing that. But then when Vin's meeting with Breeze and Marsh, she starts seeing that a whole lot more that you can do with these than what Kelsier has taught her.
Yeah, I like when he points out that, contrary to popular belief, you don't got to be a badass, full-on allomancy god to kill you. A regular person can do it, or a person with one power. So that makes the fact that everyone kind of just neglects learning this one as strong as they can seem very funny to me. Because the way he describes it, it seems like this is an incredibly useful ability.
Mm-hmm. I hope Vin learns all these and becomes just a master fighter.
Well, they're saying that she's already got a much, much better handle over this than anyone does at first. So assumedly she would become more powerful if she takes it serious.
It's interesting because she's always actually been like looking for lessons. Like she's always bringing up the lessons that her brother taught her and stuff. Like she just wants to learn. So I'm really glad she's got all these masters to learn from now. I'm gonna hope she does become like a super fighter.
I've got a new theory about this from things that are said. I think not quite yet, but I'm not sure if I should say it because if I do and it's a shot in the dark and it turns out to be true, Sheta will be so mad at me for spoiling
Yeah,
it.
don't do. You've said that before for like other things, and I don't like knowing.
But that's the point of the podcast.
I know it's the point of the
Yeah,
podcast, but Sheta's going
I
to hit me
know.
if it turns out to be true.
All right, I'll just
Not
hit
that
you.
it will, but if it does.
I still
Well-
owe you a hit for guessing the king was going to be a murderer.
Honestly, I think there were a lot of context clues for that.
Well, all right. I'll wait until we're done with this chapter, then we can go into your shot in the dark or end of the episode.
Yeah.
So then Vin decides to burn Copper, and then she starts soothing and rioting Marsh's emotions in order to get him to open up. And then he does. He says that he had snapped when he was very young, when his mother was taken away. Kelsier hates the nobility, and Marsh feels the same way about the Obligator. He joined the rebellion and started learning all he could about allomancy. And then he notices that she is soothing him and tells her to stop. This was the second time she had done that to him. The first was 8 months ago. And he just stares at her with that piercing glare, and she can tell why he used to have the nickname Iron Eyes, like Spook had told her. Finn asks how she knew he was a Mistborn, and he explained that he had sensed her also burning pewter and tin that same day. She probably got the trace metals from water and utensils and was burning it instinctively. Few people, even Mistborn, burn metals instinctively, and that's what caught Marsh's interest, and he had told Doxson where to find her. And then Vin notes that Marsh is stern, like her own brother. When Marsh asks if they were close, Vin answers that she hated him. And then she asks if Marsh hates Kelsier, and he says no. He's his brother. Vin has trouble understanding that.
Oh, so sad.
Not just has trouble, has it's like an alien concept to her. So interesting.
Yeah.
Everyone else, it's such a normal thing. But her brother, he would look down. He would beat that out of her. He would not want her feeling that way at all, right? Because he would think that that's bad and weak.
If we ever meet her brother, I hope Kelsier kicks his ass.
A lot of her brother's lessons seem to have helped her, like in that shit world they live in, it's a very different kind of place. Even though he was so mean, it seems like everything he said came from a place of caring, in his way. So I think it's really interesting. I can't even imagine how it's going to be when we meet him.
Yeah, but now you keep just hearing his thoughts in her, or his words in her mind, just telling her, "Don't trust anybody."
I think that's going to turn out. I think that's going to turn out to be what she should have done. Or I think there's going to be a moment where she's like, "I should have listened to him all along," even if she's wrong to think that, or it's a misunderstanding or something. She only stayed here to learn these secrets of these powers and stuff, Now she's here invested in the cause and everything. She's gone so much further than what she's supposed to do by that kind of logic she was taught.
And then Marsh asks Vin about her parents. She says that her mother was mad. She heard voices. One day, Reen came home and found their mother covered in blood. She had killed their baby sister and gave Vin that earring that Vin is wearing, by just forcefully shoving it through her ear, proclaiming Vin a queen with her sister's corpse at her feet. And so Reen took Vin and the two of them fled. And Vin says that Marsh is lucky to have a Kelsier as his brother. Marsh says that he wishes Kelsier wouldn't treat people like playthings. Marsh has been known to kill obligators, but he wouldn't murder men simply because they were noble. Kelsier also likes to have people fawn over him. Vin senses some jealousy in Marsh's voice, and then Marsh says that, that Kelsier is getting better. The pits and her death have changed him. And Vin senses some deep hurt from Marsh. It's more hurt than a man should feel for sister-in-law. It wasn't that everyone liked Kelsier more. It was that one person liked him more, someone that Marsh loved. And then Marsh notes that nobility is becoming too interested in Kelsier. When Kelsier returns, he won't be able to be as in the open as he has been. After Marsh leaves and meets up with Kelsier again, Vin sees that they really don't hate each other and wonders what that would be like. She figures it is like the allomantic pulses and is just something too unfamiliar to understand at the moment.
That's interesting that she isn't just saying that she doesn't understand it, but she's saying that at the moment she doesn't, which means even if she doesn't realize it, she has some kind of hope that it's or idea that it's something she could maybe learn with these people.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else from this chapter you two want to go over?
I don't think so.
I liked when they have the recruits they're gonna bring over to the caves and stuff, and they're all looking at Kelsier, all like, "Oh, that's it, the survivor of Hudson, like he's a legend or something." Like, and they're fanning these, and I was like, "Oh man, they're trying to turn Kelsier into the Skaa Rebellion's Mockingjay, like like a symbol to rally behind. Like that's what people like, which I think is very interesting. Like they want like." When you have a figure like that, I think it's so interesting. We have that in real. Sorry, I keep bringing it back to real life stuff, but like revolution figures, like people like we like having them to follow and stuff like that. So
It's
I think
fascinating
it's
that that's in our
interesting.
nature. Because we're smart enough
Hmm.
that an idea should sway us, like what's best for us, what'll be the best life, but it just doesn't work. But having some strong person in the lead, so many people think, yes, I will follow them. I will do that. People who otherwise wouldn't, you know? And it's
Yeah.
funny that most every revolution has some strong figurehead at the front of it, you know? That's why it's interesting
Hmm.
when they, a little earlier in this chapter, I think it was, where Vin's like, you know, if this is successful, can he give up this role, you know? Because like a lot of people don't, they can't, you know, they get this power and then they just turn into the new Lord Ruler, you know, or whatever they were fighting, they turn into it, you know. So it's an
Yeah.
interesting thing to think about with Kelsier, who you're like, oh, he never would, you know. When you think, as the Lord Ruler kind of does in the text, like, I'm the only one who could save them, you know, you start to get some kind of big ideas about yourself and your place in the world.
Yep. Now my theory is it's kind of coming back.
Which one's that? Oh God, no, no, no,
I,
no, not that one. No.
well, it's a circle that never ends.
It's like a wheel of time.
Joe. Yes, that would be a great book title.
Almost like one that Brandon Sanderson could write a couple of.
Yeah, he'd be great.
So here we go. We'll go into chapter 21. So, epigraph. The hero of ages shall not be a man, but a force. No nation may claim him. No woman shall keep him, and no king may slay him. He shall belong to none, not even himself.
See, Sheta, he's noble.
Oh, I was like, what the heck? Is he like Dr. Manhattan? Like, he's like a thing. Like they just turned him into like a superhero Superman thing.
Yeah,
I
Sheta,
thought,
he's a piece of God.
yeah,
Well,
he is like Dr. Manhattan. That's how I imagined it.
well, this epigraph was in quotes, so it was him quoting something. So it's pretty much a prophecy that he. This is a prophecy that he
Oh,
was fulfilling.
okay. I see. Interesting.
Because like
See, he
before,
sacrificed for all of us, Sheta. He's the good guy here.
he's the hero of
Yeah.
ages.
Mm-hmm.
I'm beginning to have my doubts too, if the plan is good or not.
Oh, no way the plan will work. This guy's going to be so much scarier than you could ever guess.
Really?
I think so.
Hmm. I guess we've seen the Steel Inquisitors, and they're pretty tough. So
He's either the toughest, scariest thing of all time, or just a regular guy who's pretending he's lived for 1,000 years, you know, and
yeah,
pretending he's this guy who saved the world long ago. It's gotta be one of those two.
He's Oz the Great and Powerful.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, so chapter begins, and Kelsier is reading the translated parts of the Lord Ruler's journal while he is on the boat. And it has a couple paragraphs, and pretty much these are the same exact things as what we've been reading in the epigraphs. So just confirmation that those epigraphs are the journal that he's reading. And Kelsier finds the journal tragic. The Lord Ruler was going to save mankind, but has instead enslaved it. And then the canal boat arrives at their destination, and Kelsier makes a flashy exit. And he and Yeden meet up with a man named Captain Demu. Demu leads them and about 250 men to the caves. They walk through a forest, and Kelsier notes that there would be no way to hide their trail. And when they arrive at the cave, its entrance is a crack in the ground. And Kelsier says aloud that it reminds him of the pits of Hathsin. He makes sure that the men can hear his fears and see him overcome them. Kelsier climbs down to the cave and meets Hammond inside. After Yeden and Demu join the cave, Yeden raves about how great it is, and Kelsier has been doing a great job. Then after that, Kelsier and Ham, they leave off on their own and inspect the two other entrances into the caves. While they are moving through, Kelsier thinks about the pits of Hathsin, and we learn about exactly what was going on to the pits. Where pretty much while you're there, every single day, the slaves there had to climb down inside the pits in just pitch blackness, and they would have to reach into all these holes which had crystals lining them, and they had to find geodes that contained atium. And all those crystalline holes would cut up their arms, and that's where Kelsier got his scars on his arms.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yep.
That's sad.
Just constantly cutting from all these crystals and geodes, and yep, that's why his arms are just full of scars. And
they couldn't give him some kind of tool to use? Like, that's so awful.
Like, they only send condemned men down there. I'm like, Jesus, they must be... they must have a lot of prisoners who get their version of the death penalty or life in prison. And because it just sounded so horrible down there, and how fast you can get killed down there. It sounds like they've got a constant flow of people coming through. It was really horrifying to me to think about. It's like my worst fear. Crawling around in caves as a slave. You have to work your ass off to find this stupid thing, I think it was weekly, to bring up, or they're going to kill you. So you're so focused on that, too. It just sounds absolutely horrible.
I think it mentioned there about, like, you would at times find, like, a body or just bones there.
Yeah, that too. And, you know, they either died or they just gave up. And how when he sees those, when he's like, you know, sometimes he wanted to give up, but he'd see him and be like, no, I'm not going to do that, you know? I'm going to keep going. The whole thing just sounded like hell. Or my version.
Yep, and I talked about how they cannot use allomancers to look for the atium geodes because certain types of allomancy would destroy the geodes if you use them.
Yeah.
And like Justin said, the slaves had to find one geode a week, otherwise they would be beaten to death. So for a year, Kelsier went to the pits and found a geode every single week. But then there was 1 week where he could not find one. But Mare claims that she had found 2 that week, so she gave him one of them. But she hadn't. She had only found one and gave it to Kelsier. So she did not have one, and she was beaten to death the next day. And
something you could never forgive yourself for believing.
And then Kelsier snapped that night. And then the next night, men died. And even after watching Mare die, Kelsier still couldn't decide if she had betrayed him or not. Did she give him that geode out of love or out of guilt?
As he kind of implies in a second, these are the thoughts that could really just drive you insane. When he's like, I can't think about this.
Yeah.
And then Hammond asks Kelsier about the army. And, you know, he says that they are starting to feel like soldiers, but they're still only skaa. You know, they've spent their lives working in mills or fields. But Kelsier tells him that the pits of Hathsin are only guarded by a couple hundred men. So they should be able to easily take it with 1,000. And then the other 9,000 might have to face some Great House guards and palace soldiers when they take Luthadel, but they should still have the upper hand in numbers. And Hammond asked him about what will happen after that when they give the army to Yeden. You know, he says that 10,000 men can't hold Luthadel against the entire final empire. Kelsier says that he tends to give them a better chance than Ham thinks he will, you know, since he's going to turn the nobility against each other and destabilize the government. And Kelsier tells Hammond that he's bringing him back to Luthadel. Yeden is here to replace Ham, so that way he can get the troops used to him as their leader. And while they are walking, Hammond, you know, he's just doing his normal philosophy pondering, and he asks Kelsier if the skaa are truly different from the nobles. You know, and he says, you know, the skaa tend to have more children than the nobles, but Kelsier waves it off, saying that's just because different cultures. Hammond brings up the fact that nobles are taller than the skaa, and bigger, but Kelsier just says that's because they have better nutrition. And Hammond then brings up allomancy, and talks about how only those noble blood have it. And Kelsier asks if there actually is a difference between them, and if the nobles are right to rule the skaa. But Kelsier says no, it's not right.
I really liked somebody talking about this, because this is the comment I keep making about this stuff, is you don't know for sure. It's something to think about. And so I like it being a character like Ham who thinks about the things nobody else really wants to think about, people find pointless to think about, wondering about this, though I personally would not wonder about it to Kelsier of all characters.
Well, he doesn't have
I feel like
Breeze
he
to
might
bother.
even say, yeah, true. But I don't want to hear Kelsier say, it's treason then, and just cut me down right there. Because Kelsier was getting really mad at this line of questioning. Like, how could you even wonder that? Like I said, it's going to be insane because all our main characters are all they've got elementic powers and stuff. It's going to be crazy when we learn that the skaa are just cattle and they actually don't think the same as everyone else.
Not all of them. Dachshund does not have any elements.
Which one's Dachshund again?
He's the other one that's
He's
kind of like
Kelsier's-
Kelsier's right-hand man.
It kind of helps him. He talks to Vin a bit at the beginning when they were recruiting her.
But happily help, right? Guys want
Yeah.
to do. No, because what actually proves that wrong is the opening section where we did things from a skaa's perspective, when they had the guy who kind of ran them and we got to see his internal world a little bit when he was all horrified about the girl being taken and stuff.
All right.
So that proves they're not animals.
All right. So then a week later, Kelsier has been watching over the army, but he cannot forget that conversation he had with Ham. And he wonders what all these men are fighting for. He gets a feeling from them that they don't actually believe that they can succeed. So he realizes that he needs to give them confidence. So Kelsier asks Ham if there's anybody here that has been causing problems. Ham points out a man, but Kelsier finds him too scrawny. Then Ham points out a large man named Bilge, who is too clever to be insubordinate, but has also been making noise quietly. So Kelsier gets up and he begins giving a speech to all the men. They're in like a eating area. He begins giving a speech to all the men there about how they will take down the final empire. And while he's giving the speech, he is riding the emotions of Bilge and the others at his table to make them find this disagreeable. Eventually, Bilge stands up and tells Kelsier that this is a suicide mission and they will all be slaughtered. Kelsier says that Bilge speaks treason and asks for someone to defend the honor of the rebellion. A bunch of men volunteer, but out of them, Kelsier picks Damu, because he is just a little bit smaller of a guy. And so then they have Damu and Bilge have a duel. And throughout the duel, Kelsier uses Allomancy to give Damu the advantage without his knowledge. Eventually, after Damu disarms Bilge and sends him to the ground, Kelsier tries to force Damu to kill Bilge, but Damu holds his sword back. And then Kelsier notices that Bilge's arm is broken and feels like that is enough, so he releases Damu's sword.
The part where he's like, this man should die, was really, really scary to me.
Oh, I know. I was like, wait, who said that? Is that Kelsier?
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh.
Well,
He's
you know what
not
he
a
thinks
good
of
guy.
people. Well, you know what he thinks of people who would allow the nobility to continue,
But it makes sense for him. Like, for me, I'm like, I've already casted Kelsier in my head as a very nice actor, so I can't imagine him doing all this stuff, and it really scares me whenever Kelsier does things like that. Not only was he going to kill him, he was going to force a young man to kill for the first time, probably, without even thinking about it.
He's interesting to me because he's a protagonist who actually thinks like how a revolutionary would think, where usually they'd be just good guys. But I'm like, you can't be a revolutionary and a good guy because you have to kill people,
Yeah.
Especially when you've got to kill somebody to maintain your secret because they'll sell you out. That's not good. That's not like super.
Yeah, that's not a good
really
leader for a rebellion.
Mm-hmm. And I'm incredibly curious what the quote moral of the story is going to be at the end, because in the last book our lead Raoden was like just a straight good guy, like exactly what a good guy is like, he would not be thinking this way, he would be thinking much differently, so I'm really curious what the moral, if there is one, is going to be of this story. Like in the end, is it going to be like, well, Kelsier is right, and you just got to kill them all, or is it going to be, we got to take down Kelsier, the fucking psychopath, now that we've taken out Lord Ruler,
So then Kelsier tells the men that he would not send them in to face the Lord Ruler unprepared, and he holds up the 11th medal. He says that he's going to use it, and the Lord Ruler will die. And he tells them they possess power within them, and that they've heard of the magics the Lord Ruler uses, and that they have some of their own. After this, Ham is not happy, and he tells Kelsier that he doesn't like this. But then Yeden walks over and just is all excited and says he didn't know that Kelsier could extend his powers to him, and doesn't think about how they could even possibly lose if they all have this power. Ham pretty much tells Yeden to go away. Ham's upset with Kelsier, saying they just lied to his entire army. And Kelsier just responds that no, he lied to his army. But he says that, it's not really a full lie. Because all they need is just to be threatening enough or long enough so that way they could steal the ATM, bribe the garrison, and then they'll be able to take it without a fight. Ham's not happy with this, but Kelsier, thinks about how there's still more plans and plots, but he just can't tell Ham all about it. There was always another secret, and that's the end of chapter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so curious because characters like Marsh talk about Kelsier pretty poorly, but we've never seen anything to make us we just think he's obviously a good guy, It just makes me incredibly curious where the book's planning to go about this.
Yeah, it's really scary.
That's good. I like when I like when the author doesn't immediately tell you, by the way, in case you were wondering, this is right and this is wrong, like all boring. Like they allow the characters to be themselves so you can think about it and explore it with them, these ideas.
Yep. I might have to recast my Kelsier. I'll tell you who I was going to cast too when we do that.
Well, we'll see.
I do like Kelsier. Yeah, maybe. Also, maybe I got to watch the movies with the actor I'm thinking of to see the range. I really enjoyed Kelsier flying around like a superhero, though, in front of the troops.
Yeah, when they don't know about the rules of the medals and stuff, right?
Yeah, they don't really know about how it works. It just looks like magic, so it would be like having a superhero. I thought of like Captain America leading the troops in, or like in The Boys where you have like the super people leading in the troops, like.
Yeah, but with a little more trust in them than they have in The Boys, right?
Oh yeah, but the idea is to like send them in to like hype them up and stuff, so they're not scared of dying, and so they can think maybe we'll survive because we've got a superhero on our side.
All right. Anything else from this chapter you two want to go over?
One thing I want to point out about Kelsier is he is a leaner. Like, he's always specifically pointing out how he leans on something like a cool guy. So that's
Oh, really? I never noticed that.
Yeah, like, yep, he leaned back on the dresser or something when he's talking to Vin, and now just leaned back on a rock or something when he's talking to Ham. Like, he's always like flipping a chair around and sitting on it backwards, So like, he's just like an ultimate cool guy.
I did notice the chair thing that one time, yeah.
So he just seems like a really cool, laid back, ultimate. Yeah, so that's funny.
All right, so then we'll just go into our, questions and theories and stuff. So with Vin hoping that they could get Ellen to, join with them, and Kelsier being against it. How's that work out? Will Ellen join with their rebellion?
I can't get any better of a read on Ellen than Vin can at this point, because I could really see it going either way. He could be an armchair activist, like they're saying, where he's like, oh, the heathenry of the Lord Ruler, blah, 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 Or it could be like they said, where he doesn't ask about the scoff or that he's not passionate about it. He's just a learned man thinking about things. Or it could be that he's legit just rooting out people who are thinking revolutionarily. Like he works for the, what are the guys called? Who walk around, and the guys who kind of walk around the nobility and are like the police for them.
Obligators?
Obligators.
Yeah, the obligators. He could be a secret little junior obligator working for them even. Yeah. Leaving out books like that to see who would take an interest, like an O'Brien type.
Junior obligator? He's 22 years old or something.
Yeah, you know what I mean, though. But I could see it going any direction, is what I'm saying.
Also, remember, obligators have all those tattoos.
Well, no, not one of them, but working with them or for them.
Yeah.
No, a person
He's
like
a
that,
trainee.
I don't think... Come on. No, not a trainee.
I think it's more likely that he is interested. He's just very sheltered and doesn't know much about it. But he would be like actually pretty willing to put stuff on the line for it. But of course, Kelsier is not going to allow that. But I think that maybe Vin will actually let him in on secret. They'll have a secret relationship and a secret rebellion.
Till it turns out he's just playing her to get info on the rebellion, of course.
until it turns out she's playing him to get info too. So
I
it'll
don't
be
think
kind of
she's that
sad now.
skilled at this game yet.
Well, I think she'll tell that to herself a little bit, just so to make it okay, you know? I don't know. I think that either way he's gonna come into the fold a little bit. Kelsier won't like it.
All right.
I want to add, I think narratively it would be very interesting if he was brought into the fold. So that makes me lean towards thinking that. That's the only thing that makes me think that, is just that it would challenge Kelsier so much if his surrogate daughter was like dating not just a noble, but one of the most noble nobles out there.
Yeah.
And then that he was claiming that he's for this cause, which he wouldn't believe, of course.
Oh no, spooks wouldn't like that though.
She described him as like she described him not that positively in this chapter somewhere. I forget where.
There was a part when she was saying how she really liked all the guys on the crew, even spooks.
Yeah.
A little.
Even spooks. Yeah. That made me think that your little hope there is dashed.
Yeah. Well, after he just kind of became a little weirdo, when we learn more about him, he hasn't really talked to her that much.
Became a little weirdo. He was always a little weirdo. I mean, have you listened to the man speak, or the? I guess he's a kid. Have you listened to him speak?
Yeah, you've literally listened because you're doing the book on tape.
Yeah, but it was
I just realized, Sheta, you're reading this book like it's Mass Effect, and these are all your romance options as you're playing as Vin.
That's not true.
That's how you talk about it, though.
Well, she is the main character.
Yeah.
Well, Justin, if you had a choice, which of them would you romance?
As Vin, or if I'm playing somebody else?
As Vin.
As Vin.
What's her name? Lady Shan? That's the one I'd go for.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Okay, and so as we're getting closer, we're seeing their whole plan to, attack the Pits of Hatson and take over Luthadel. How's that going to go?
It's going to go better than I expected because they can't get Allomancers in there, or they wouldn't risk it.
Yeah, I think it will be. I think that the interesting part's not going to actually be the fight. I think it will be the post-fight, like it keeps kind of hinting at. So I think it'll go pretty smoothly.
I think that aspect of the plan will go okay. I think the rest of them will go very poorly. But then maybe they find out that the Steel Inquisitors can go in there just fine, and they'll just get obliterated. Which would even be good for our main guys, because then they wouldn't have as many to deal with.
All right.
But if this revolution is built on the blood of what, like, how many men? Like 50,000 or something they're trying to build up over there? I don't remember.
10,000.
Yeah. The blood of 10,000 men, that'd be pretty horrifying.
All right, and then Marsh is, now he's into the ministry as an obligator. Where he's in there to get them information and also to, see if he can find a weakness in the Steel Inquisitors. How's all that going to go?
Seeing Marsh's personality, that I think is going to go quite smoothly. He seems like he'd be a careful person. Yeah,
but it's always that character, the careful, more methodical one, that it gets all effed up, and it's the more like spontaneous, careless ones, like Kelsier, like just gets through.
Yeah,
just fine,
So the revolution's built on the corpses of 10,000 men and his brother. That's what you're saying, Sheta?
Yep. People like Kelsier use people up.
Yeah, it's sad because they don't do it from an evil way, But yeah.
Yeah, they just follow them because they love them, but they do use them up.
All right. And then, Justin, what was your big theory earlier you wanted to talk about?
Well, this is based on almost no evidence whatsoever, except that Vin is very powerful and her mother called her a queen. I think that her father is not who they say it is. I think it might be somebody much, much bigger. That is based on nothing but those two things.
Interesting.
And that will be the last line in the book. You'll hear, Vin, I am your father.
Oh my god.
So, who's this person that's going to be the father?
Well, the biggest, baddest person you'd never expect. And that's as far as I'll go with that.
Wow.
Straff Venture, so that was she and Ellen are brother and sister?
No, oh my gosh.
But that would be good stuff too.
Sexy.
So Justin's theory is that the Lord Ruler is Vin's father.
I never explicitly said that. But that is my very little evidence batshit theory for this book. See if I can go 2 for 2.
All right. Any other theories or predictions that either of you want to throw out there?
You don't got any insanity shit to...
No new ones. No new insanities.
All right.
Oh, actually, I had one. I'm so sorry. I don't think that Vin's mother killed her sister. I think that baby Vin accidentally killed the sister, and that made the mother just go insane. And that Vin, as
Good
a
one,
baby,
too.
was actually driving her mom insane.
That
Maybe
she'd
using
already-
allomancy on her mom. Mm-hmm.
She'd already had her powers since babyhood.
Yep.
Well, that could
Yep,
be
maybe she's
too.
crying.
It could be something where she's the next, quote, Lord Ruler, like the next destined one from the
Yep.
ancient
Maybe
prophecy
she's the
that
next
knows about.
hero. Yeah, hero of ages. Mm-hmm.
Well, not necessarily a hero, but like the
That's
one
what the
who
Lord
will
Ruler
hold the
was.
deep at bay. Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, the hero of ages. Maybe the prophecy is actually about Vin.
Well, maybe those ages are done, and it's the next age.
I was like, what book was it where there was a prophecy and it could have been about a number of different things happening at once? And I was like, oh, that's
Harry
Ice and
Potter.
Fire. No.
Isn't that
Where
in every
everyone
book?
interprets the possibility. Yeah, but where everyone interprets it like to their own advantage, right?
Yeah, the red comic
think,
was
"Oh, it
by,
was
and they're like,
about
oh,
me."
that's about you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's such a funny aspect of that book.
Harry
Or
Potter
such
had
a real believable one.
Harry Potter had the prophecy that went for 2 characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there could have been more people. There had to be more than 2 people born on that day with those other. I guess they would have had to fight Voldemort and beat him, but no.
All right. Well, if you guys don't have any other theories or anything, then we can jump into the characters and quotes.
This chapter's my favorite was Ham because I enjoyed his philosophy and going to the furthest extremes on them, even when they're in the midst of raising an army against this guy. Wondering if the skaa are too weak, stuff like that, or if this is even a war they should fight. Like, he's the kind of guy who thinks about those things when he's sitting around. He doesn't just assume that what he's doing is correct. So I find that very interesting about him.
Favorite for this week is Kelsier. I really enjoyed. One, we learned a lot about his. That was last week's. But we learned about him through his brother a bit, and then through his like I liked his when he was in disguise, spying as a nobleman and as a skaa. Like, you just really see his mind. Like, we saw many different shades of him, and even up to the point where he tried to have a kid kill another man. Like, I just think we saw like many different shades. I'm always like, oh man, this actor I'm casting would be perfect as him. And then I see him like do something so dark. I'm just like, I don't know. I don't want to see that. Like, he's very interesting. I like him.
And then my favorite, I'm going to go with Marsh. I enjoyed seeing him, teaching Vin, talking about how even powers that other people find useless and weak can actually be very useful in fights and help her out a lot. And then him opening up a little bit about, his own life. Granted, that was because of allomancy, but afterwards when it's not, talking about Kelsier and how he still liked him and everything.
Yeah, this was a hard one for me. Both those characters I almost picked as my favorite too, because there were a lot of good character moments between everyone in this one.
Just go with Yeden as your favorite.
Yeah,
Why?
no one picked Yeden. He's gone through a lot of character changes too in the past couple months. Now he's a big Kelsier fanboy.
Is he, or has he just been allomanced enough that he thinks he is?
Well, he must have wanted to from the beginning.
Right. And then we'll do quotes.
Okay, let's do my quote. I really enjoyed the part with Vin and Kelsier. I always enjoy the conversations, but this one is when they're talking and Vin wants to recruit Ellen, the guy she has a crush on. Sorry, I'm looking for a quote. Kelsier. So, yeah, Ben just says, maybe we can Use him as an ally or something. Oh, child, Kelsier thought. I hope he doesn't hurt you too much when he discards you. You should know better than this. Don't count on it, he said out loud. Lord Ellen might be reading a forbidden book, but that doesn't make him our friend. There have always been noblemen like him, young philosophers and dreamers who think their ideas are new. They like to drink with their friends and grumble about the Lord Ruler, but in their hearts they're still noblemen, and they'll never overthrow the establishment. Just that he knows a lot more, or he thinks he has Ellen pegged as this type, and he very well could be, but it's very cute that Vin does not know that she thinks of him as the person that she's kind of gotten to know and stuff. It's also very,
She's also,
huh?
she's
Yeah,
also
she's,
never been exposed to very many nobles except through negatives, you know? When one starts talking about this stuff in the first place, she just assumes it's out of a place to help and do good, right? You know?
yeah.
Because after that,
Oh,
when she says, but he was talking about the skaa, you know, that part?
yes, I was going to bring that up too.
Oh, okay, then you say it.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No,
Just
you've got
that,
it open already.
yeah, she's like, but she talked to me. She wanted, or he wanted to know all this stuff about details about Ska. And Kelsier's like, did he care or was it just educational that he wanted to know? Like, and she couldn't tell. So,
I like that part a lot too, because I was wondering that, you know, because, you know, it's a smarter person. It's something to think about. That doesn't mean you're going to do anything about it, you know?
mhm.
And when he asked her, it could just be, he's like, oh my God, is this somebody I can actually talk to about stuff? You know,
Yeah.
not, oh, maybe I can bring her into the resistance we've built, you know?
Yeah, Brandon Sanderson, he's doing a good job of doing that, where I'm like, one minute, I'm like, yes, there's definitely a noble underground resistance. And then the other, I'm just like, no, why would there be?
Yeah. Eh, mine
Alright.
is when she's talking about when Vin's thinking to herself, when she's thinking, only a few months playing noblewoman, and I already find anything that isn't cultivated to be inferior, as she's looking out at the barren landscapes compared to the somewhat more made up ones in the noble area. But it's when she's thinking about what they're doing, and then, would doing this really change anything? Besides, didn't the Lord Ruler have some right to his place? He'd defeated the deepness, or so he claimed. He'd saved the world, which in a twisted sort of way made it his. What right did they have to try to take it from him? She wondered about such things often, though she didn't express her worries to others. That's the same as with what Ham's thinking about. You're just thinking, well, obviously we've got to do this. It's for the good of everyone. But then you think deep down, you cannot get rid of the idea that maybe he is right and we are wrong. Maybe he is a god. That just really showcases what it is they're dealing with and how big of an idea. Like, because to me, I'm like, oh, he's just an evil lord you can beat. But when they do that stuff, it really showcases to me just what he is in this world. I mean, he is an expression they use when, or you know, whenever they feel, instead of saying my God, they say Lord Ruler. He's at that level. So I found that really interesting to have Vin, who doesn't usually think about these kind of things, starting to think about this even.
Hmm. I like that too. With when you're trying to do something big too, you have all these doubts like that. Like everyone's just going about their business, living in the final empire, like, and then you suddenly just want to like flip the table. Like, you sure you want to do that? Like, it's a big move, you know. I don't know. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's just really interesting that those are really human thoughts to think too. Like, we could just leave it well enough alone and probably will not die, you know.
Well, it's more than that, because it's like, yeah, we are being treated poorly, but this is God we're going against, you know? Whatever
Yeah, I know.
God says is right, you know? Am I allowed to go against that? Which Ham has touched upon too. And that's an element I find very interesting in this book.
Alright. And mine. However, once he passed beneath the surface, it was as if he were back again, smashed between two walls of stone, pressing downward with shaking fingers. Cold, damp, dark. Slaves had to be the ones who recovered the atium. Allomancers might have been more effective, but using some forms of allomancy near atium crystals shattered them, so the Lord Ruler used condemned man. forcing them into the pit, forcing them to crawl downward, ever downward. Kelsier forced himself onward. This wasn't Hathsin. The cracks wouldn't go on for hours, and there would be no crystalline holes to reach through with torn, bloody, bleeding arms, stretching, seeking the ATM geode within. One geode that bought one more week of life. Life beneath the taskmaster lashes. Life beneath the rule of a sadistic god. Life beneath the sun gone red. I will change things for the others, Kelsier thought. I will make it better. Climb was difficult for him. More difficult than he ever would have admitted. Just that one, just going into pretty much him relieving the pits of Hathsin, you really see some of the fear and anxiety that's inside Kelsier that, in all honesty, we have not seen too much of throughout the story.
Yeah, it's not something he ever would show off.
And you just really see exactly what happened to the pits of Hathsin and why they were just so bad. Anything else you want to say about these 3 chapters in total before we finish up?
No.
I think you covered everything for me.
Okay, so next week then, we will be doing 4 chapters. 22, 23, 24, 25. And just as a preview, I'll let you know at some point in those chapters, there will be the word Vin.
Oh, good. Vin dies. First words.
Vin dies. She deserved it.
She was behind it all.
She was behind it all.
Vin,
Yeah, that's the theory. She isn't related to Lord Ruler. She is the Lord Ruler in disguise.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. It has to be some sort of like a multiple personality disorder thing. So she's the Lord Ruler, but she doesn't know she's the Lord Ruler.
Oh my god.
That sounds off.
I mean, why do you think the Steel Inquisitors are after so much? They're trying to get their god back.
Lord Ruler, you've got to come back and rule the kingdom.
It's just like Aladdin. Like, they're just trying to find Jasmine because she's princess.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to come home and be Lord Ruler.
I don't want to rule the final empire.
Why is Vin the 2-year-old now?
That's the other personality we'll see.
Baby Vin. I hate this theory.
That maybe we can come up with the worst possible ending.
I think Sheta already did that with theories.
What? With what one?
The Kelsier travels back in time and becomes the Lord Ruler theory.
What? That one's... You think that one's stupider than Lesta Vornis being the Lord Ruler?
Yes, actually, I do, if I'm being honest.
All right. Well, if we don't have anything else, let's just jump into plugging shit.
What shit?
Okay. Our shit.
Ah.
Yeah. Well, I'll just do my usual, my Instagram, Sheta_low for art and crafts, and then my Instagram for my cosplay and outfits of the day is Mermaid Machete.
Sheta, that was such an amazing plug. I am going to ask you to do my plug for me.
What? Well, give me $20 and I'll do it.
We'll see how good of a job you do.
Half up front, half after.
Just buy her a manga chopper card and give it to her, and she'll do it.
Yes.
Sheta, I'm waiting. Let's hear it.
All right. If you like comedic and somewhat sexy comics, you can go read comics and follow art from Profanity Beaver, who is Justin. Instagram is Profanity Beaver?
Question mark. Very good plug.
Yes. And you can also read it on Tapas, and he has a Patreon. If you want to go donate $1, at least you can vote on all his polls, which are very fun, and they happen monthly or weekly, actually. And you will draw whatever we vote for. It is very fun.
It's never whatever I vote for. My votes always lose.
Yeah, but this week's post, or I don't know if it'll be accurate, but we just did one on reporters, and then the one before that we did spies. And
Sheta, I've got to step in and say, this is the greatest plug of all time. You just got me 10,000 followers.
Wow.
I'm watching the
Okay.
numbers go up right now.
That'd
Wow,
be very
we haven't
impressive
even.
since we don't have 10,000 listeners.
I
And
don't know
no
how
one has
they
heard this
told
yet.
10 friends, they told 10 friends, all of that. I'm amazed, Sheta.
Oh, that's good. So do I get the job?
You got the job.
What
Yay!
job?
The
All right,
job
well-
of doing a plug for me this one time.
Yeah. Keep it in the podcast, Joe. I just got a job.
I don't need this podcast no more. Just smashes her mic.
Well, so for the plugs, I'm just going to go in saying that starting with next week's episode, I'm going to switch the date that the episodes come out, switch it from Sunday to Monday to just make things a little bit easier in the future. So people who are binging this later after the fact, it's not going to matter to you at all because you already have the next episodes ready. People who are listening live, if you get to a Sunday and you're wondering why there isn't an episode, that's because it will come out on Monday. After that, now, if you want to contact us and bitch about the fact that's coming out on Mondays, you can email us at cosmerechronicles@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on Key, a most ancient letter, formerly known as Twitter, then you can follow us at Cosmerechron, CosmeRechron. And then if you want to complain, you can give us 5-star reviews on any of your podcasting places and leave a review talking about how awesome we are. We'll understand the true meaning behind it.
Yeah.
And if you just want to give us tax-free money, just email, let us know how you want to give it to us, preferably in unmarked bills, and then you can send it.
Yeah. Send it.
Well,
No, I feel like you're going to get us taxed.
But, yep, that's all the plugs and shit for this week. Nothing else. So remember, 4 chapters next week. Everybody enjoy it. And over the next week, go out there, have fun, and see you later.
See you later.
If you listened this far, you're our favorite fan. Okay, bye.